No, thanks for sharing that, Mark. And you mentioned it there that not everyone is successful first time
No.
round or second time round. It is a very challenging process
Mm.
for an individual to go through. And I'm sure our audience will be quite interested to hear that you've been on the panel. So, over the years, what are the most common downfalls that you've
Yeah.
observed with people who've been unsuccessful?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. In terms of pass rate, a lot of people, ask me what's the pass rate. I mean, it does go up and down year on year, and we've obviously gone
Yeah.
through. We do face to face. We did, virtual vivas as well. Obviously, had a gap with COVID. I mean, on average, I would say the pass rate is about 70%. So about kind of 2 out of 3 on a day. Pass. I mean, some days you have everybody pass. There have been unfortunately days where no one's been successful. Um, but most common downfalls, I mean, I put them into fairly high level buckets. I mean, I think probably in this is about demonstrating your knowledge during the Viva. It doesn't mean you can't actually do it, but obviously you have to be able to demonstrate knowledge of the study guide during the Viva. It's not a job interview. It's not, we're not a personality assessment. It's just about demonstrating your knowledge of the study guide in that situation. So I think, one of the things would be, people perhaps their inability to apply their knowledge in scenario questions. So yeah, very good at the theory, and I've had people, you ask legal duties, routine duties, they'll just rattle them off, and that's great. That's a skill in its own. But then you start, asking people to apply that, or you'll give situations, scenarios, and people really struggle with that because it's not, it's not just an exact thing. There's lots of information there. I think some candidates would really struggle to extrapolate the knowledge to less familiar areas, and it really throws people. So if you've come in and your background is sterols, and someone's asked you, maybe a tab more of a solid oral dose question, or if you're a solid oral dose and they've asked, there's been a question that's involved a cream. Some people really struggle with that, and it's very clear in the study guide and all the guidance you need to be able to do that. Now, we wouldn't, we would never expect someone whose main experience is in solid oral dose to know sterols in the same way someone who's been working in sterols. However, you should know the basics, know where the risks are, and be able to explain that, and not be just sort of overwhelmed by it. So I think those are probably the if you like, two high level areas, and I think that does then link back to my earlier comment about the perhaps a lack of practical experience and actually seeing things. Because in a pressured situation, I know myself, if I'm then trying to think about something I've read in a book versus something I've actually seen because I've visited, even if it was only a short visit, it just it's more cemented in my mind. So those would be the two high level areas. I mean, one thing I would say is in the joint professional bodies do publish a QP newsletter. So typically, it comes out quarterly. So that will be on the Royal Society of Chemistry, Royal Society of Biology, or the Royal Pharmaceutical Society website. So in the last one, so there was a list of, if you like, the most common reasons, or the most common reasons for failure by module. So number one was roles and professional duties. Number two was the pharmaceutical quality system. 3 was formulation and processing. 4 was micro, and 5 was fifth was packaging. But I think they're all quite specific, and I'd come back to those, two sort of high level buckets. I think ultimately it's about how you can apply and demonstrate how you can apply your
Yeah.
knowledge, in the Viva situation.
Yeah, so the practical experience gained through the application process is quite critical then to actually walk into that Viva and be able to demonstrate that knowledge, especially when you're in a quite high pressurized environment in those couple of hours.
Absolutely, and you're going to have 3 assessors in there. You're going to have your officer in there, and you may have an observer. That could be a trainee assessor. It could be someone from the MHRA or VMD. So it's a high pressure situation. You've got to be able to manage your state. It's your chance to demonstrate your knowledge. Obviously, as assessors, we could only assess on what you what you tell us. So if you can't get things out, I mean, my experience, we always would try to help unlock. If someone feels that that you can see they probably know it, but they've got a block, then perhaps you rephrase the question, answer it in a different way to try. We want people to be successful. And our job
Yeah,
is to find out what you do know. But yeah, it's about managing that your state ultimately, I think, in a high pressured environment. And yeah, for sure, the practical experience helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you mentioned it before that we had a episode with Phil Rose on, and he
Mm,
shared his experience of
mm.
failing, and he demonstrated that it's actually not the end of the road.
No.
That you can pick yourself back up again, you can go
Mm,
again, you can show that resilient attitude,
mm.
because sometimes it just might be on the day.
Yes,
That
yeah, absolutely. Things can happen on the
yeah,
day, and it depends where you are and how you respond. Maybe something hasn't gone so well, and I'll talk about some other situations that later in the podcast. But how you again maintain your state. Maybe we are I think I haven't answered that scenario as well as I would have liked. Now, can you just move on to the next one? That's done. Or does it it's then just a downhill. Again, I've seen that. But I think the best thing is, you learn from it and you will come back better. Actually, it's like everything,
yeah,
and that's when you learn and grow, isn't it? When maybe things haven't gone as we've planned, and no one would choose wants to fail the Viva, but out of it, I think the the best people take that learning, like anything in life, and come back better, learn from it, and are
yeah,
better for it. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely, Mark. Yeah, and without naming any names, I'm sure there've also been some quite standout Vivas which have been quite memorable.
Mm.
Can you share any examples of these memorable Vivas
Yeah.
that you've witnessed?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's been lots in the time. I mainly talk about the good ones, as there are some probably standout ones that were, not good. But actually, you can learn for those. That's not to make fun of those. It's just actually to share that. So, I mean, I'll talk about, obviously, I won't talk about individuals. I'll talk about some of the things that I saw that I thought, actually, that was, that was good. I mean, obviously, a really good understanding of the core modules and the key principles is, that the best people are able to do that. In the scenario questions, I think that the best candidates can quickly identify what the key issues are. You're trying, because bear in mind, you're trying to cover the whole study guide in about an hour and a half to hour and three quarters. You can't spend ages on this, right? So it's sort of high level. So the best candidates can quickly identify what the key issues are and what they need to consider and apply the principles of quality risk management. Um, the strongest candidates, I think, will ask very good questions. So when you give it, when we're giving a scenario, you'll give part of the, maybe part of the information, and it's a great opportunity for candidates to demonstrate knowledge by the questions they ask, and that to me is usually where you start to distinguish. You can tell the people that have the practical experience because they're asking the right sort of questions, and that says, okay, you know where this is going. Um, again, the better ones are, candidates are able to handle less familiar scenarios. So, if their experience is one particular dosage form and we give them something else, at the end of the day, they're still, logical, structured. They also will know they're not completely flummoxed by it. They'll be able to say, well, okay, look, these are some of the concerns I've got. They can come back to some sort of first principles, I guess, of this sort of situation. So coming back and thinking, well, actually, you're thinking about the patient risk, thinking about any concerns, thinking about compliance risk, and also who else might they want to talk to, and where else might they want to look if they didn't know, because actually in real life you don't know everything, and actually part of the duties, you need to know when to consult with relevant experts. So I
Yeah,
think again, strong candidates can do that. Very clear communication as well as being structured. It's very, very clear, very sort of definite and confident, I guess, and not sort of appearing unsure. You never like to hear, well, I think, or if you're just deferring to colleagues who are going to do it, we want to know what the candidate, their view. Um, I think candidates who have had maybe a narrow scope. So some candidates apply, and it might be quite a specialised role they're in, and so you might look at the application and think, well, okay, this might be a bit of a struggle for them, but they've worked very hard to get that practical experience and through their network and visits and things. So I think again that's always good. I think, and I talked about at the start, I think those candidates who come back and have addressed previous concerns. So I can think of one particular example. Yeah, actually, it was a face to face Viva, and actually the person they just struggled, I think, with the lack of practical experience, and we gave that feedback. And actually, I think it was one of the first. It was the first virtual Viva, and I'd been chair with it when the person was unsuccessful, and I was chairing again. So they came back again, and the first person they're seeing on the screen was me. But actually, it was great because you could see they had really they really put the effort in to get the practical experience, and it just shone through, and it was great to see. Actually, it's probably one of the most rewarding ones.
Yeah,
um, I think the better candidates always think about the patient. You're not just focused on, don't get lost in the detail. You got to keep it high level. Always think about the patient. I think just on that, that's the good ones. I mean, the bad ones, I think, a lot of it is either nerves. I've seen that, or people just cannot handle, which is
yeah,
horrible.
yeah,
We really did try, and I know it would be the same now. Actually, really try to steady people down, get people to just breathe and take their time. Some people are just, unfortunately, on that day they're not able to get through that. Some people, I think, it's just lack
yeah,
of prep, and possibly due to lack of support from sponsors. If you
okay,
haven't practiced scenarios and gone through the sort of high pressured sort of situations, and you've got a lack of practical experience, I just think, that will shine through, unfortunately. So yeah, there's a few high level examples there anyway.
yeah. Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Mark. And do you believe then, this, obviously you mentioned it in your sort of introduction, that the sponsor is very, very critical for the trainee in terms of, okay, whether they can be passed on that day, or obviously, yeah, maybe fail, or maybe come in too overconfident and lack that practical experience.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. The sponsor plays a key role, and is ultimately deciding when you're ready to apply. And I think then of course, something can happen on the day, right? So then, okay, the sponsor's done their best, and but if someone's miles away, then actually you have to look at, why did the sponsor allow them to come through? Because
Yeah,
that's not fair
yeah,
on the candidate. It's really not. And so I think, the sponsor plays an absolutely key role in supporting them, and also sometimes that might be. And I've had to say to people, yeah, look, I know you want to go, but I don't think you're quite ready yet. These
yeah,
are the areas I'd like to see, and you need to be honest. Don't just let people go through and knowing that, oh, yeah, I don't think they're really ready. That's you've failed in your professional duties, I'm afraid there. So yeah, sponsor is key.
yeah, yeah. So that judgment and making sure that the candidate is completely 100% ready to go
Mm.
is, as you say, very critical. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Mark. That's going to be really valuable to
yeah, no
anyone who
problem.
potentially is leading up to the Viva this year.